You go down and then you go up to make it better, make it better. Down on the ground, it's just one way up. Make it better, make it better. If you stand by me, I will stand by you. To make it better, make it better.
Hi, good evening. I'm Rebecca Seawright from Manhattan Neighborhood Network. We have a very exciting show today with Donna Lanzetta from Manna Fish Company, and she is a fish farmer. Donna is a leader and activist in aquaculture, and we're so pleased to have her join us today for the show. New York's waterways supply some of the best seafood in America, and while we savor these regional gems, decades of high consumption have prompted overfishing and marine biodiversity loss. We must pursue more innovative and sustainable food practices to meet the rising seafood demand and minimize environmental harm. Thankfully, thousands of fabulous nonprofits have dedicated themselves to this exact mission. Today's guest will tell us about her leadership and her activism and her business in this field. Donna is an attorney and entrepreneur with a passion for sustainable seafood production. She founded and is the CEO of Manna Fish Farms, motivated by a concern for our growing population, declining wild fish stocks, and the urgent need to feed more people. Manna Fish Farms awaits permits to operate two of the first United States open ocean fish farms in federal waters, including off the coast of eastern Long Island here in New York State. Donna's team will operate transparently as they implement new ocean farming models, a circular business plan, research, technology, new feed compositions, and renewable energy into their offshore farms and operations. So with that, we would like to welcome Donna from Manna Fish Farms to the show today. And Ms. Lanzetta, you received your JD from Pace University School of Law and your undergraduate degree in Business and Marketing and Management from Southampton College, magna cum laude, LIU. And we're just so pleased to learn about your business and all of your leadership and activism. How did you transition from practicing law into fish farming?
Well, how? Not easily. It was, and really not planned. And thank you so much, Assembly Member Seawright, for the opportunity to meet with you here today and talk about aquaculture. I got into aquaculture and fish farming because I understood, recognized the challenges in the United States where we have a situation where our commercial fishing stocks are flat, right? We can only get so much seafood out of the sea sustainably. And we look to aquaculture to fill the void. And what's happened is that we have a great trade deficit in aquaculture, in seafood right now. We're importing 91% approximately of our seafood that we consume. And what we have to do right now is start farming, because more than half of the seafood in the world is farmed. Our wild stocks are flat as far as production, and to be able to farm will take the pressure off the wild stocks and allow our country and our world to meet its sustainable development goals and fight climate change. We have to go. I know that's a big sentence.
Right.
There's a lot of information there. Why did I get into it? Because it needs to get done. And I saw an opportunity to use my law license to bring together the 37 federal and state agencies that are involved in the permitting process in federal water, to understand what the challenges are legislatively for industry development, and to look and see, why are we importing so much seafood?
And how would you explain marine and food growth sustainability?
Well, I'd say, my big word is balance, right? Aquaculture can be in the freshwater, in the seawater, it can be on land. It can be in the open ocean as Manna is seeking. All of these production methods have to consider what's the most sustainable for them, right? For us, for farming in the ocean, sustainability is about balance with the ocean. To be able to take nothing from the sea and leave nothing behind. To have a zero carbon footprint would be our goal. And we look to power our farms through renewable marine energy, such as wave energy. We've been researching that potential to be able to feed our fish with sustainably sourced feed that doesn't take pelagic fish from the sea, and instead use some of these alternative resources, such as plants and larvae that are being used to make fish feed and waste. It's about a circular plan and utilization of all of our resources and waste. And we can make feed out of the proceed trimmings. There's so many things that we can do to fight, to be sustainable, to be in balance. And for us, it's a commitment to 100% transparency, right? As one of the first, we want to show that this can in fact be done sustainably. So we're up against,
So,
go ahead.
so I like that circular and the transparency is key, especially in this business. And so why do you think that fish farming presents a better alternative to some of the existing practices? I know you've talked about that a little bit, but if you could go into a little further detail. I love the fact that the plants can be used as food, and so for the fish. So if you could just talk a little bit more about the existing practices and why in this modern age and day that it presents a better alternative.
So we have so many new technologies. And I'm in working on this for the last 7 years, I've had the opportunity to see these technologies evolve. Technologies that would support sustainable farming in the ocean, such as submersible net pens. Instead of sitting on the top of the surface of the ocean where they could get hit by storms, they drop down and stay underneath the surface where they're safe and predator proof. We have technologies, as I mentioned briefly, with the feed being converted, and we have robotics that are being introduced to clean the cages and make it more economically feasible, as opposed to having divers underwater power washing all the time. We've had sensor technology developed so we can determine where to place our sensors, so we can prove these scientific facts and show that we're not doing anything to harm the benthic environment underneath. And we have modeling now, modeling to help us determine where to place the sensors, computer modeling. If the farm is here and the current is this, we should put the sensors here because that's where the waste and the feed, if there's overfeeding, where it would flow. We have very important marine spatial planning tools that NOAA, National Center for Coastal Ocean Science, and other organizations have developed these mapping tools to be sure to find the most productive sites for farming out of the way of all the other ocean users, so we can minimize our impact, out of the way of endangered species, which now we have tools to kind of know where they are. So I think all of this has come together to make it viable, that it can be sustainable, and we look forward to proving that.
Wonderful.
We also look to our state water. There is one state water farm in Hawaii that's very successful. We look at their model. They're farming kampachi, blue ocean mariculture very successfully. They've done research that shows their impact on their environment is minimal, and we plan to do the same.
Fabulous. That's terrific. And so where do you think aquaculture stands in terms of our future and climate justice and environmental justice? Where does it fit in?
I mean, if you look at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and think about protein production and feeding the world, seafood is really the last protein that we hunt for commercially, right? When you think about it. So it's only natural that it would be farmed, um,
Mhm.
provided it's done the right way. And done the right way, it could fight climate change because we could produce protein in the ocean without utilization of our natural resources. So we don't
Mhm.
need water. We don't need electricity. We can use the power of the ocean. We can, minimize all of that consumption and at the same time have no impact, show that, and be able to produce protein to feed the world.
Wonderful. And you're developing aquaculture innovation centers around New York. Can you tell us a little bit more about these centers?
Yes, we have a wonderful partner from the Port of Los Angeles, Altasea, and actually I was just out there viewing the 160,000 square foot space they're building within the Port of Los Angeles. And they've come in to assist us to help us build a aquaculture innovation center here in New York. We have an existing property and we're proposing with our local municipality to collaborate and build a aquaculture innovation center there, which would consist of a restaurant which had regular service, but also integrating some of the
Mhm.
tools that we see for the future for tracking and tracing fish, which we can talk more about, and also incorporating the farm,
Mhm.
which will have demonstrations of different types of culture, seafood culture, seaweeds, mushrooms, etc. All those ingredients being utilized in the restaurant and sold to the public and be a public touring and picnic place
Mhm.
right here in Southampton. So look forward to over the next month or so, public hearings and rolling out the specifics of that plan. Very excited about the global collaborators who we're bringing in and the Manna Ocean Foundation nonprofit that's being proposed to steward the center.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you said in California, that's where you traveled to look at one of these aqua centers. Where was that in California?
It was in the Port of Los Angeles.
Hmm.
A group, Altasea, Altasea. They've built a wonderful space, and it's beautiful because it's the same type of format where they have tenants basically in the sustainable seafood space and others. They're doing carbon capture. They're studying ways to fight climate change, and they're doing seaweed culture. And it's a beautiful place for events and education. So they do tours, much like we plan to do here in New York. And I'd like to do one down in Florida as well.
I'm sure school groups would love to take a field trip through something like this innovation center and be very hands-on. How has your project off the coast of Pensacola, Florida, involved interactions with your state government? I'm curious, as a state elected official, what we can do to support aquaculture and farming in New York State. So, learning a little bit about what you're doing in Florida, I think, would be helpful.
Yes, so in Florida, we've completed our marine spatial planning with NOAA, National Center for Coastal Ocean Science. That was about 18 months. We've spent a great deal of time with public engagement, stakeholder engagement, with the Florida Department of Aquaculture, also the universities, Florida State universities and others, and Florida state sea grants. The sea grants have been helpful in Florida and also here in New York. Um, I think that Florida, it seems, I pursued that permit a couple of years after the New York, because New York was first for me. But the Florida has moved faster. I think it's just the agencies are better acquainted with how to collaborate together to reach a consensus as to what they want us to study, what they want us to report on, how how the marine spatial planning should be viewed, what we're doing with the modeling. It has been more conducive down in Florida. Here in New York, I think we're lacking a little bit. There's been a movement over the last 2, 3 years, since 2020, 5 years, I guess, when aquaculture was accepted as part of ag. And I always say, I'm the mother of the aquaculture is ag movement in the United States, kept pushing that message, pushing that message. We are ag. So finally, we're being recognized, farmers as farmers, under the ag provisions, opening up, farm loans, et cetera, to be treated the same way. And the acquisition of the land in Southampton, where I want to build the aquaculture center, actually was the first collaborative purchase where the Southampton Town Community Preservation Fund came in and bought the development rights at the same time that I bought the land and the restaurant, and the town bought the marina. So now to unite all of that property as one nonprofit center is very exciting.
It sure is. Absolutely. And in the state of Florida, you mentioned they have a state agency for aquaculture, like most states have for agriculture. Where besides Florida in the United States do we see the state government actually having a state agency dedicated to aquaculture?
New Jersey.
Mhm.
I see there's one in
Right
New
here in our
Jersey.
backyard, our front
And
yard.
so got to get over there. Talk
Right.
to them a bit. It's definitely on my list. So,
Uh-huh.
we collaborate with the Sandy Hook National Lab. We're doing some research with
Hmm.
them in New Jersey. So I think it'd be good to learn more of what they've done there, and maybe take a trip over, meet with them.
Hmm. Sounds very interesting. And then you see that as a potential here in New York State, I'm sure, to have a state agency dedicated specifically for aquaculture.
I think
We
it's
have it.
important
Hmm.
because there's different types, and it would be important to have one agency supporting all types of culture, seaweed,
Hmm.
shellfish, and finfish under one umbrella, lest one of
Hmm.
those cultures get left out of the party, right? Um,
Hmm.
there's a lot of seafood we have to produce. More than half of the seafood we consume globally is farmed. And here in the United States, we're we're exporting our product. We're importing 91%. 60% of those imports come from China, and only 2% are inspected. So when you want to make a decision to eat a sustainably produced piece of fish, it's very difficult decision.
Hmm. And speaking of inspections and transparency and grading of fish, is there grading of fish like there is for beef?
Yes, it's
Hmm.
mostly, if you look at the salmon, there's salmon color coding and different types, and there's organic standards for seafood in other countries like Canada and Scotland and Ireland. They have organic seafood, so you might see that. But there's
Hmm.
another issue, right? 50% of seafood is mislabeled. So we have to
Mm.
address that too, because we need to make our decisions based on the facts, not what somebody, maybe switched in the supply chain.
Hmm. And what is the motivation for this mislabeling? Is it accidental and negligent, or is it deliberate because they're in short supply and they mislabel it for a higher priced fish, or why is this occurring?
I believe it's mostly financial, to
Uh-huh.
move lesser valued products into the space of the higher valued products. Of course, those that are certified, and there's a plethora of certifications, whether you're farmed or wild fish. And so those that are certified, sustainable, best practices, organic, they can govern a higher price point. And people who buy those, we want to make sure that they actually get those and understand that that is a better product. And we want to
Mhm.
incentivize that good behavior. Not that they're going to buy it and then say, hey, that tastes like just like the other stuff.
Mhm. What is the most common fish that's mislabeled?
Oh,
or
that's a great
caviar or
question. Well, salmon, some of the trouts, halibut, the white flesh fishes get switched out a lot. I had an experience at my restaurant where oysters were mislabeled. I know because I called the oyster farmer. I said, "Oh, I just ate your oysters." He said, "You did? How could that be? I haven't harvested any in over a month. I tore my rotator cuff." So then I had to look to my distributor who must have switched them in to get the extra 25 cents per oyster that his
Mm,
oysters garner. So even though I know about this, I can't prevent it unless tools are put in place. But that's the same answer to your other question is how can we do this better? There are
mhm,
tools in place now. We can track and trace products throughout the supply chain, from the dock all the way to the restaurant, and add
mhm.
marketing information into the tracking so it will help promote the seafood sales, US seafood sales.
Right. And with our modern day technology and robotic methods, there's just so much that we can do and improve on to keep up with the developments in technology. We have to implement it and keep up with these developments for a more sustainable future. I think it's a wonderful idea to have a state aquaculture agency looking into this and creating more transparency so businesses such as yourself don't get mislabeled products.
That's it.
So,
And we have
mhm,
rolled out an initiative, Manna Seafood Blockchain, which will be
mhm,
utilizing we've convened a blockchain network so we can use that immutable record of the blockchain to track seafood products. So we're really excited about this tool, and it's an opportunity to track. And we did track. We traced a tuna out of Montauk, New York, to just see how things went. And we found
mhm,
that tuna went from, one broker to a second broker who froze it and brought it to Japan, auctioned it Japan, bought by a broker, sold to a distributor, second distributor brings it back to New York, goes into Fulton Fish Market, ends up getting bought by a distributor and sold to a restaurant in Syosset. 6 months. Our tuna around the world, it's just inefficient. And then,
wow.
and then the fisherman who's waiting to be paid to see how much the fish garnered at the auction gets told, "Sorry, Mr. Fisherman, you're only getting, blah blah per pound because somewhere along the line they didn't care for your fish properly. It wasn't properly chilled." So how do
Mm,
you know that? You have to put it on these tracing platforms. And when you talk about legislation, the USDA has the Food Safety Modernization Act, which is mandating reporting of origin
mhm,
of seafood is one of the items that have been added. And we'll be able to comply with that through utilization of this tracking program.
mhm. Wonderful. There's just so many developments that can be implemented. And what do you see as the number one fish to be farmed?
For me, I love striped bass, but I think you have to look at each region and
Uh-huh.
see, like down in Florida, we're doing redfish. We have a great source of fingerlings for redfish. There's a lot of science about the production of juveniles. And so that works well. We'll be doing striped bass as well in Florida. We were surprised to learn how quickly the striped bass grows under the conditions of our Florida site.
Mhm,
And we researched that with the University of New Hampshire, Dr. David Berlinski, who studied our New York site and our Florida site, looked at
mhm,
striped bass from each to see how quickly they grew. And they both grew well, but Florida even did a little better. In New York, we're going to do, hopefully, we're proposing black sea bass and striped bass here in New York.
mhm,
So we're just about ready to start in Florida our EIS, which will take about a year and a half. And at that point, we will be not good to go. I'm sure there's always a process, right? But
mhm.
we're getting ready.
Wonderful. And you said did you say 38 federal agencies I'd have to
37. I don't have, we
37.
can, I'm sure. I bet there's a new one in the last 5 years.
Uh-huh.
We had weekly calls for a year with everybody on the calls to, get to the point where we understood what was needed and how it could possibly proceed.
Uh-huh.
So and we're complete there. Our full application in Florida is going back in this week. We added striped bass, so we have the redfish and the striped bass. We added a copper component potentially to the net pen because copper inhibits the biofouling. It would be less cleaning, but we'll see. Maybe the robotics will take care of that. But we have an option to take a look at it. And we've done some engineering work to support a copper net situation.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And so how can our viewers be supportive in this movement really that you're describing to us?
I think get educated and ask questions. It's not as it used to be, oh, is it farmed or is it wild? It's really much more complicated than that. If it's farmed, you want to know where was it farmed? How was it farmed? Was it farmed on land? Was it farmed near shore or offshore? What kind of feed did they use? What are their that information. Same thing with wild capture. You'd want to know, was it within their quota limits? Did they use the proper gear? What kind of bycatch did they have? Is it, and then the other information to say, how was this fish cared for during its route to my plate? So that's something else now that needs to be considered.
Right, right, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today and our viewers for tuning in to hear Donna Lanzetta for joining us and discussing her leadership in sustainable fish farming in New York State. And there's so much to accomplish in this field, and it's promoting a better environment for everyone. And climate justice. So we appreciate, Donna, all that you're doing as a leader in this field. And thank you for joining us.